Within the universe of Diablo, one of the most important and exciting parts of the game are the skills. The way that you progress through the game naturally is building your character through smart decision making. Smart decisions involving skill point placement. At least, that was how it was in Diablo 2. Diablo 3 had an uncontrolled progression without impact. It was a kind of thoughtless progression where abilities just came out of the woodwork non-stop until you hit the max level cap. The replacement for skill point placement was a customizable rune system alongside a limitation on how many skills you could have at a time. You were also permitted to change abilities and runes at any point outside of combat to encourage flexibility, but what it actually created was a casual ease of access to endgame that was unbelievably unsatisfying. It left many Diablo 2 players feeling like they weren't making impactful decisions when it came to their skills. The game catered more to the casual audience. It catered more to the types of players that were migrating from World of Warcraft. And this makes sense as Activision Blizzard oversaw Diablo 3's development. They literally took as much as possible from World of Warcraft and shoved it into the Diabloverse. From the auction house, to the softer, agreeable color and tone of the story, to the uncontrolled choice and skill development, to the unlimited specialization resets. It was relentless. It was this kind of hidden insurance so that World of Warcraft players felt comfortable transitioning from their own game to Diablo. And this really aided in the horrible inflation of near-perfect scores that Diablo 3 received. Nonetheless, the true Diablo 2 fans, we knew something was wrong very quickly. The incentive to imagine creative builds or restart characters was simply gone because of the unlimited specialization resets. Before seasons were introduced, there just wasn't any replayability. Not that the way seasons functioned really added much to begin with. To attack the core issue of skills, I need to start with the basics of how Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 handled progression. I stated plainly in my last video that the tone and atmosphere of the first two games made you feel weak and alone. But this is not the only way that they achieved the necessary horror construct. Through slower progression in the first playthrough on normal mode, you felt what should have been genuine fear at some point. It was way more prevalent in Diablo 1, but it still was present in the sequel. In Diablo 3, you gained some of the most ridiculous moves so early on. No choice in it, you just receive them. Remember how I mentioned all of the overpowered abilities in the last video? This is no joke, folks. You really gained most of your abilities early on in the game, with most of the runes following that. Before a multitude of patches corrected difficulty, you literally crushed normal mode, feeling like a god, which is essentially what a Nephilim is. The over-the-top immediate rewards that you get for just leveling up a few times is ridiculous. In contrast, obtaining the final moves in each specialization in Diablo 2 took far longer, and due to the way that abilities affect one another, your progression was always centralized around high-impact decision-making, resulting in most skills, if not all, having a purpose. Even as you progress through Nightmare and Hell mode, you still felt the true power of leveling up, the power of progress. It's a beautiful thing when properly utilized in gaming. And in Diablo 2, they perfected this. Not to mention you were able to choose your own stat progression, unlike Diablo 3. It was this hand-holding that really destroyed Diablo 3 for me. I literally cannot stand leveling up in Diablo 3 and just seeing 2 to 3 new abilities and runes forced into my library of moves that I may well never use. Why couldn't I have allocated more power into one of my favorite moves on my own accord? Why can't I choose how my characters level up? Oh wait, most people at this point would probably point at runes and say, well, you can choose. I can choose and I do have impact. Well, sorry folks, I'm just going to have to respectfully disagree. The impact of choosing runes is lost so quickly with the very idea that I can just switch back and forth on a whim of mine. There's no planning, there's no risk taking. In Diablo 2, I felt like I was swimming in a vast ocean of possibilities, while in Diablo 3, I was just a child jumping up and down in a puddle on a rainy day. On top of this, Diablo 3 characters lose a certain uniqueness in all of this. There's no pride behind your character's builds when everyone can just mimic you on a heartbeat. Let's just stop for a second and talk about elemental damage in this game. What the hell is the point? There's this idea that affixes increasing specific elemental damage is a good thing. It isn't. It doesn't make any fucking sense at all, other than it pigeonholing you into a specialization based on the gear that you get. Oh, don't forget that you could potentially get what you want from the shitty re-rolling enchantress. Seriously folks, if you can just change your type of damage at any point in the game, why does it even exist? Is there even a point? Well, after some research, I found out that besides a few monsters having select resistances that might not even be true anymore, that there's no point to elemental damage. It's cosmetic. Like, even if it's cold damage, if it doesn't say it has a chill or frozen effect, well, then it's just cold damage. It's literally how pretty can I make my laser beams of death. Why not just open up all options at once, or just have a flat damage type? Well, there's no uniqueness to elemental damage if you just give everyone access to all types of elemental damage. It's a self-defeating design. Wow, I can have a fire, lightning, and frost hydra, but only one at a time, but I guess they're really pretty, right? Oh wow, I'm a barbarian that has all types of elemental damage on a whim of mine. Cool! Wait, I guess our classes aren't different after all. What the hell is the point of creating all these elaborately designed classes, but giving them so many homogenized moves and types of damage? I mean, does it really make any sense at all to give a barbarian lightning damage on weapon throw, cold damage on earthquake, and fire damage on whirlwind? Why even bother? Well, I know that there's poison, holy, and maybe some physical damage as well, but it really is lazy game design. You bring nothing to the table by saying you do holy damage as a crusader. You bring nothing to the table by saying that you do poison damage as a witch doctor. You bring nothing to the table at any point with any elemental damage. Yes, some people are going to point out, well, it's the move's effect that matter, not the type of damage. But you're supposed to give these branches of damage purpose, not just, hey, what's your favorite fucking color? Or, hey, what's the bonuses on your set pieces? Listen, I understand that some of you might be saying, well, that's the point of the game. Work around with what you got or what you like. But the crucial thing that I haven't gone into much detail is monster resistances. Much like in the early days of World of Warcraft, Diablo 2 featured relentless, difficult enemies with immunities and resistances. It was a challenge, until Blizzard assumed the players were too fucking stupid to figure out how to work around these resistances and immunities. And yes, my Diablo fans, World of Warcraft actually took a few tips from Diablo at one point in time, and yes, those were the best times in World of Warcraft. I also understand how fucking infuriating it can be running into unique monster after unique monster that has an immunity against my Holy Frost Paladin. But it's this kind of barrier that asks the players to work together and become diverse, or diversify your own damage in order to defeat these kinds of enemies. It asks the player to come up with a solution, rather than asking Activision Blizzard just solving it for you. Oh wow, I guess they can't beat guys with resistances easily. Better just take resistances out of the game to cause players to become less unique in their builds. Oh wait, let's just have them be whatever they want with no consequences at any point in time. Okay, so I just kind of went off on a tangent here, and I might be rambling a bit at this point. But this really is all a contributing factor in why skills and progression are so fucked up. The impact is no longer there when you level up. There's no reason to re-roll and start a new character. There's nothing exciting about a new season anymore, because why would I restart a character when I can just click a button and have a new meta build in a second? It doesn't ask anything of the players. It literally says, hey, you hit level 70, change your skills to whatever you want at any point in time. No adversity, no challenge, no consequences. You can all be special now. And I'm not saying that Diablo 3 should be hinged upon restarting new characters, but you have to understand that Diablo 2's replayability was phenomenal. It ranks up there with Pokemon in terms of how exciting it can be to start a new character, because you can make high impact decisions that have a mark of permanence that other games did not have. I think what I'm trying to pick at is that Diablo 2 had perfected the balance of experimentation versus consequence. It made sure that the player was constantly thinking about what the next best choice was. Should I add more into Holy Shield, or am I able to afford a more offensive build? Diablo 3 is just a messy table in a science classroom that students don't have to clean up afterwards. Just leave it all behind you. They figured out the answer, so now they could just move on. Woo! Well, I guess the game's over now. In the end, Diablo 3 made the choices it did because of how many casual people were migrating towards it. Jay Wilson and his team wanted things to be as simple and easy as possible for our new friends. They wanted people to get a quick fix and jump back into other Blizzard games. Instead of taking time to study why Diablo 2 was a masterpiece for its time, they took their own flawed gaming philosophies and hacked away at what should have been a prestigious title in gaming. It's a shame. I remember back in 2008 whenever hype was starting to build around Diablo 3, I was thrilled that Diablo 3 might actually be coming out soon. But what a disappointment it was, especially early on. Yes, the game has gotten better as time went on, but that's just what you get for handing the reins over to an inexperienced, arrogant shithead like Jay Wilson. And that's what happens whenever a company like Blizzard North is corrupted by the hands of people in charge of a long-running series like Call of Duty. So, yeah, my retrospective kind of ends right here. I'm planning on making a video about the future of Diablo 4 if it ever does happen, and I really appreciate every fucking last one of you that inspired me to go through with this series. It's intimidating, to be honest, and I wasn't quite sure I had the heart to dig into it this much. Diablo 3, while a mess, still has a lot of fans, and it's hard for someone like me who likes to remain neutral and remain understanding to critique such a big game. We're such a small channel, and it's easy to become brigaded by hardcore fans, and the last thing I'd want to do is piss off a bunch of people. I do have to be honest as well. I did pour like hundreds and hundreds of hours into Diablo 3. There were some remnants of Diablo 2 that got me excited, but again, that excitement decayed very quickly. Stick around, I'm still going to continue with another Diablo video, and maybe even move on to Torchlight 2 or Path of Exile. I'm not too sure yet. PC gaming was big with me, and it really is still to this day. I grew up with late 90s and early millennium MMOs. I'd love to hear some suggestions on what I should play or critique next after my final video on the future of Diablo. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, or subscribe if you haven't already. And also, follow us on Twitter. We're going to be doing a few gaming giveaways. Or maybe we could just group up and play some Poe together. I have no idea. But anyways, thank you all so much for sticking with me to the end and hearing my dumb opinions on these games. The Super Retro Brothers have a lot more content coming your way. So until next time, thanks for watching.